So we ask everyone to move to the English room if you would like to listen to this presentation in English. So we will do, before we start, we still have 5 minutes. I'm going to do a test. So our interpreters, if you can interpret the following for me to make sure that you are in your rooms and not in the English room. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. So if you can interpret that, please. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. We will start in 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you.
While we are waiting, I would love to let all of our guests know that we will have a middle school evening just like this for our middle school curriculum. If we can have that interpreted to all of our rooms. I can repeat that. Next week on February 7th, we will be repeating the same process for all of our middle school math curriculum nights. And then we will do this again on February 28th for our high school curriculum. We invite you to return to those sessions if you have students that will be going to middle school next year or going to the high school next year, or if you currently have students that are at our middle school and high school level. Thank you for being here. If you just joined, we'll be starting in about 3 minutes. Thank you for being patient and being here for tonight's session.
Thank you, Rochelle. The interpretation rooms are working properly. There is a question in the chat asking if the meeting started. The meeting will start in about 5 minutes. La reunión comenzará en 5 minutos. For our interpreters, feel free to turn off your camera when you're interpreting. You do not need to have your camera on. Thank you.
And for those of you just joining, our start time is 6 p.m. So we'll start in about 3 more minutes. Hey, and the time is 6 o'clock. So thank you, everybody who signed in early to get to our interpretation rooms. And thank you to all of our interpreters who are here joining us this evening and interpreting for us. My name is Brooke O'Neill, and I am the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for David Douglas. And we are so excited tonight to talk with you and share with you where we are in our math adoption. We are so fortunate in David Douglas that our school board funds and approves funding to purchase instructional materials, because we know that high quality instructional materials matter, and we take this process very seriously. Every 7 years, the state of Oregon has a different content area where we can adopt instructional materials. This year, the content area is math. So we are going through a very rigorous process to choose the best materials for your students. And you're going to learn about that process tonight, as well as hear from the 2 publishers where we're at. We started with 10 programs that we were looking at, and we are down to 2. And we're going to need your help and giving us input as we make this very important decision. Before we move on and talk about our agenda tonight, I do want to make note that there is a question and answer, a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. If you do have a question, please type it in there, and one of us will either answer you in writing, or if it's appropriate, we will also answer verbally on the call. Just want to let you know that that is an option. There's also going to be time tonight for question and answer after you hear from publishers. So with that, let's go over the agenda. So Rochelle, if you can flip to the next slide. Okay, so what is tonight going to look like? We are here till 7:30, and we're going to start by obviously welcoming you. We're so excited to see so many people here and interested in this work. We get very excited about it. We're excited to share it with you. We want to share the process so that you can see and hear the intentionality that goes into adopting materials for your students. And then, as I mentioned, we're down to 2 publishers, and you get to hear from each of those publishers tonight. They're going to share about their program, what the student experience will be, and if that program is selected, what you will see and what you can expect. So they're going to present for 20 minutes, and then there's going to be a question and answer. So please, tonight, as you're listening, if you have a question, we want to hear your voice. So please make sure to make a note of that so that we can get that answered for you. So we're going to listen from Curriculum Associates. The program is iReady. And then the second publisher we're going to hear from is McGraw-Hill, and the program is called Reveal. And then we're going to end the night sharing about next steps and how you can give input into this process so that we can hear your voice as well. So with that, I am going to go ahead and hand it over to Rochelle, who's going to share with you who our committee is and who's doing a lot of work this year to ensure we get high quality materials in our classrooms.
Thank you, Brooke. I want to take just a moment to give a big thank you to all the educators that have been putting countless hours into our adoption work so far. So I'm going to pause just for a moment, and I would love for you to scan over our schools and our educators who are listed. You might find some familiar names. We heard just a moment ago from Brooke O'Neill, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. I'm Rochelle Zimmerman, the K-12 Math TOSA here at David Douglas. Carrie will be speaking very soon. Carrie Foster is our online curriculum and integration coordinator. And then Elise Hall tonight might pop on. She's here helping us monitor our question and answer box. She's our Assistant Director of Title Programs. So we're thankful that you're here, and we're very thankful for the educators who have put time into this process. With that, let's hand it over to Carrie to talk about our timeline.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Foster, and I'm the Online Curriculum Integration Coordinator. And we're very excited to share all about our math adoption timeline. We have a very thorough process that takes about a year. The K-12 Math Adoption Committee was formed last spring. These are teachers who volunteered to be on the committee knowing the very heavy time commitment. So Rochelle, thank you. This year-long commitment starts over the summer with professional learning through a book study. The book the committee engaged in, Choosing to See, set the foundation for helping all students unearth the potential to be powerful mathematical thinkers. Gathering student voice is a very important part of our adoption process. In the fall, we conducted a survey to students asking what they like about math and what helps them learn math. Also in the fall, the committee started to participate in anti-racist, anti-bias trainings, which continue throughout the full adoption process. The committee also worked to develop 6 priorities based on student survey data, our District Freedom Dream number 1, developed by our staff of color, and professional learning. The committee then reviewed the highest scored curriculum vetted and approved by the Oregon Department of Education. They ranked their top 4 curriculum, and we invited those publishers to present in person. Then the committee narrowed down to 2 curriculum for piloting. We are starting to pilot the lessons in classrooms and gather feedback from students, teachers, and the community. So in April, the committee will review student, teacher, and community data collected during the pilot, as well as their own scores for each curriculum. A final recommendation will be presented to the board in April. The committee members have engaged in over 35 hours of synchronous and asynchronous work for this adoption thus far, and there's a lot more to come. So students are the center of our work. And we spent a lot of time in the fall gathering student input via a survey across all grade levels and surveyed nearly 3,700 students. Additionally, we conducted student empathy interviews. Empathy interviews allowed us to go dig a little deeper into students' math experiences and helped us gain understanding as to what our students' needs are and how we can best support them. So from these two sources, we learned that students prefer engaging with multiple modes of math learning. Students value learning with individual and self-paced accommodations. Students want time to practice for proficiency. Students prefer opportunities to interact meaningfully with peers and to receive feedback. And students value hearing their classmates' math ideas in class. All of our learning and feedback narrowed it down to these 6 priorities. These include student representation in math tasks and activities, learning activities that enable students to demonstrate their understanding in various ways, and provide feedback to students to develop math skills. Our teachers are just starting the process of piloting and trying out lessons to see the degree to which these priorities are embedded in the curriculum that you will hear about tonight. You will see these priorities again in the community survey. We invite you to tell us the most important priorities for your students to succeed. Your feedback will be a very important consideration for our committee. So with that, I will turn it over to Rochelle.
Thank you. So you're all here tonight because you have an interest in where math is going, and I'm excited and I'm glad that you're here. We have a really important role for you to play as family and community members here at David Douglas. Starts off with reviewing the curriculum information that you're going to hear a little bit about tonight. We have additional resources and even student demo accounts that we would really encourage you and maybe even your student to explore a little bit together. Secondly, we want you to submit your opinions on a survey that we have drafted. After reviewing the publisher information, we have about a 3-minute survey, which you can find on the district website, and I'll be showing that in just a moment. This is a really important part of our process. Your feedback is vital to helping us to ensure that we make the best choice and decisions going forward. If you have questions, I would really encourage you to reach out to me. My email has been listed in the Parent Square updates, and my email is on the screen there. I would love to hear from you if you have further questions after tonight's information. So let's talk about the website and where you can find things. On the main page of the district website, you'll see the math adoption image appear in this image reel. And once you find the math adoption page, it'll look just like this image on the main site. All you need to do is click on the community input for math adoption link, and that will take you immediately to our page that allows you to learn about Reveal Math from McGraw-Hill and iReady from Curriculum Associates. We'll be uncovering a little bit of their programs tonight in this session, but you might want to dig in a little bit more. And so the website allows you to do that. When you click on the community input page, you'll see a section for elementary school. If you scroll down, you'll also see information about middle school, and then further down will be high school. Now tonight we're just outlining the elementary components. So I wanted to show you some of the supports that are already there, and we'll be adding more as the publishers give us more information. Reveal Math has a parent overview video led by one of their specialists. iReady has some informational documents, PDFs, along with digital access. And they just sent me a video this evening, which I'll be uploading onto this page. So it is being updated as we go. Furthermore, you scroll down a little bit on that same page, you'll be able to rewatch this video. So if you wanted to share it with people that you know, and taking the elementary community input survey is where you'll find the link directly on the website. Remember, that survey is intended to take you no more than 3 to 5 minutes. And it has been interpreted into our top 5 languages. So clicking on that single link will allow you to find the language that you need, and you can see a couple of those links on this screenshot here. And as always, if you have questions, please reach out. My name is Rochelle Zimmerman, and I would love to help you find the access that you need. So we are a little ahead of schedule, which is always a good place to be. I would like to hand this over to Brooke, and we're going to introduce our first publisher for the evening if they're ready to go.
Yes, they are both on, so we are ready. So we are pleased to host Curriculum Associates here tonight. That is the publisher, and the program that's going to be presented is iReady. So I would like to welcome Robin McSwain, who is our sales representative. And Robin, I'm going to have you unmute and introduce our presenter tonight.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Robin McSwain, and Joe Kuprak is going to guide you through the program. So hopefully we'll get to answer all of your questions as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and then let you all take on your screen sharing role. Attendees, your screens might flash here for just a moment as we change some ownership.
And please, attendees, the presentation will be about 20 minutes and we'll allow 10 minutes for questions. And so please don't forget to write down your questions as we go. We want to make sure we get those answered for you tonight.
Host sharing has been disabled. So if you could allow me to share my screen, that would be amazing.
We will have Nate work on that. He's our Zoom coordinator. It might take us just a second. Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Oh.
All right, that's what we needed. Perfect. Welcome, everyone. This will be kind of a quick overview, but any questions, we'll go ahead and take those and kind of respond as we go through. So when we're talking about iReady Classroom Mathematics, the Oregon edition, it is a program designed to cover all of the Oregon standards to the complexity, allowing students to actually master the materials, which will allow them to be successful then on the state assessment. When we talk about iReady Classroom Mathematics, the Oregon edition, it includes several components. It includes the iReady Assessment Suite. It includes the full classroom textbooks and materials. And additionally, students have access to other digital resources and materials through the same access point as the diagnostic assessment. So I'm going to start with the diagnostic assessment and explain why that is important and what it does. This is a universal tool that assesses students in 4 math domains across the kindergarten through 12th grade continuum. It's designed to provide teachers insight and understanding of where students' areas of strength and areas of greatest need are, so that then as they're thinking about instruction in the classroom, they have a clear pathway that allows them to support every student. This is not designed to be graded. This does not replace what a teacher already can learn and understand from interacting and talking. This is a tool that just provides some additional insight to teachers. So that's the diagnostic. It's designed to be given at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year to see how students are growing, and at the end of the year just to see and prepare for the following year. The diagnostic then is providing some insight, but the core of iReady Classroom Mathematics is the student work text. These are student write-in books. Students have them to journal, show their work, actually produce a lot in. So there are in-class materials and additional practice problems included. There are also family letters. Now, these books are fully available in English and in trans-adapted Spanish. And so everything, the in-class instruction, the practice problems, and the family letters will be in that same language, whatever that preferred language happens to be. And they also include a lot of additional information in the student work text, including the multilingual math glossary in the back that students have access to. The students then, for the digital experience, which was the third part of that experience, single login, which allows them to access anything that the teacher has assigned. So if that is additional practice in a digital format, if it is a parallel lesson, any of those things, and then you'll notice the full navigation across the bottom as well, so that students are able to access additional materials and resources. The bookshelf, the tools, and the learning games are three of the key pieces that students are able to access. So let's go into each of those in a little bit of detail from the digital experience. And again, it's not a requirement. It's just resources that are there to support what is happening in that student all-inclusive write-in textbook. So the student digital experience bookshelf gives students access to their grade level book, or where appropriate, teachers can actually enable a different grade level book as well, English or Spanish or both. And it allows students to go in there, they can highlight, they can take notes, they have access to a video library. There are a lot of additional tools and resources that are located there. The digital tools are one of the other buttons that students have access to across that navigation. And these are virtual manipulatives designed to allow students to actually engage with the mathematics, supporting what's happening in the classroom, or as they're working through homework, as they're making sense. These tools allow them in a more physical sense to actually interact with the mathematics as they work through. And the final button that we'll talk about down at the bottom allows students to access the learning games. And this is where fluency meets fun. Students are able to, in a game style environment, gain understanding and fluency in some of those foundational skills as they're building to and beyond grade level. And as students begin getting more proficient in a game, they're able to unlock multiple levels. And as they expand that understanding, it's deepening their ability to solve math problems more quickly, to understand the math that they're doing in a game style, fun way to actually support the learning. Now, access has been provided, and as you go in and begin accessing the information, it's kind of quickly here, but you can choose a particular grade level, and then you'll have the login information that will actually get you in to that digital experience so that you can see and feel and experience everything that we just talked about. Let's transition then and talk a little bit about what the classroom experience is. And when you think about iReady Classroom Mathematics, a couple of things that are important to know. The lessons, because they are focusing on our grade level standards, on students being able to master the content at grade level and to prepare them for success on the state assessment, as well as moving on to the next grade and carrying that understanding to college and career readiness and beyond. Our lessons are multiple days, generally about a week for a lesson to complete. Now, during those lessons, each day of those lessons are called a session. The sessions are designed around a problem that invites students to connect with the mathematics, have conversations, driving discourse within that classroom, making sure that they are applying what they need to learn to a problem that makes sense to them before we move them then to additional practice and the ability to apply that learning to different problems. But it allows them to generate multiple models. I mentioned that those are about a week-long lessons. The first session is called an Explore Day, which is an opportunity for students to bridge from the learning that may have come earlier in that grade, but may have come from a prior grade, depending on what that learning progression and the progression across those standards looks like. The majority of that lesson are what we call develop sessions, which are where they focus on that discourse-driven instruction and that classroom learning. And then there will always be the refine. In the refine session, students then are able to make those deep connections across those complex standards that we're making sure that they master across the grades. As we're talking about that daily instruction and those sessions that make up that lesson, the framework that we use is called Try, Discuss, Connect. The idea is simple, but profound. We want to pose a rich problem that students can apply their learning to. We want to take time to make sure that all students understand the problem first, and then are able to move into what we call productive struggle, an opportunity to try the problem or approach the problem in a way that makes sense to them. Not a method that we're prescribing up front, not a single way that we assume all students need to solve, but to attack the problem in a way that they understand based on where they are in that learning progression. We then want to move students into a partner conversation where the teacher is able to then choose the methods and strategies that make the most sense from where the students enter the problem to build to the level of efficiency and the more efficient ways to solve the problem built on that student understanding. That is the discuss portion of the lesson. And then we move into the connect questions, and those are infused throughout that learning. So it really is about making sure students understand a problem, try it in a way that connects to them and connects them to the problem. Then we build the discussion first in a safe small group and then into a larger group discussion and conversation guided by the teacher as they're exploring and building that understanding, making sure that we're connecting those different models and strategies, making sure that students are making those connections and understanding. Now, there are videos that you have access to and those links that were shared earlier that will allow you to actually see what it looks like in an actual grade level class so that you can actually kind of experience and understand what that looks and sounds and feels like in terms of that learning environment. When I mention a discourse-based classroom, students need to be able to communicate. That's important for their future, wherever it is that they're headed. And so discourse-based classrooms allow students to talk to each other, to ask questions, to make those deep connections. They allow the teachers then to guide that conversation so that those deep connections are taking place. It is important that students know how to solve a problem, but that they're able to explain that solution and that they're able to understand why that solution works and how that extends to different, more complex problems later on. When we talk about practice, a couple of things that you need to know. First off, in class, there are opportunities for students to apply their learning to new problems. There are fluency and skill practice options. There are different levels of practice that teachers have access to in class. They also have the opportunity to send some of those home as homework, as print resources. And there are yet different problems in our digital or online practice and the learning games that we already mentioned. So there are a lot of opportunities for students to practice. And again, that will differ from class to class, but the teachers do have a lot of choices, both print and digital choices, both in and outside of the classroom to support student learning and to provide you and your child, students in the classroom, with what they need. I've mentioned the personalized learning just a little bit. We have parallel lessons to many of the print lessons that take place in the classroom. If a student needs a separate access point, or if a student needs to see a lesson that they missed for some reason in class, these might be digital options that the teacher could assign to have the student work through in a guided digital lesson, providing them a different approach to that particular lesson that they learned in class, or that the other students, their fellow students, learned in class when they were unable to attend. So personalized learning is another powerful tool available within the platform. All right, so let's get to what are some things that we as family members can do to support what's happening with our students in the classroom. So first off, you'll be able to stay on top of what is happening in the classroom through those family letters, the developed session videos that actually model what a developed session may look like within the classroom. And then we also have background videos for every unit. So there's a lot provided, and then access through the student dashboard gives you access to the family resources, where you can actually pull many of those up digitally in multiple languages. They also give you the link to the Family Center, iReady Classroom Mathematics Family Center, which provides you with links. I mentioned the opportunity to see some videos of what it looks like in the classroom. There are answers to frequently asked questions, a lot of additional resources there, and all of that is found through a link in the upper right corner, either the Family Center when you first log into the student landing page, or the Family Resources when you go to the student bookshelf and are actually in the book area. All right, that's a lot to cover, and we covered it fairly quickly. I think we've been covering the questions that have showed up in Q&A. But at this point, I'm going to pause and ask the moderators, are there questions that have come up or anything that we need to go into more deeply?
Yeah, there's one question that we received that says, could you provide an example of a single powerful problem they may center on over the course of a day?
Absolutely. So let me think about, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I'm going to pull up something very, very quickly that I can model and kind of show what that looks like. So I'm going to keep kind of rambling on in the background while I pull that up. And then let me get to.
While you're doing that, Joe, we did have another family question that Robin helped me answer, but I think it'd be helpful for everyone in the session to hear. If we do select iReady as the curriculum going forward, parents will be able to observe student progress through your student's online account, which is probably similar to how students are accessing things such as HMH and other platforms through their student online account. Usually it's seen and termed as Clever, and that's where we would find iReady for students. And parents will be able to see their progress through there. I don't know if Joe or Robin, you want to add anything to that for parent access?
So yes, we do partner with single sign-on information, which means that however it's easiest for students, for our early primary learners, they have cards or whatever that login is. But once that those accounts are activated through the district, then they would have access to everything within the platform through that same login. So yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let's see if I have what I wanted to show here. Let me share my screen very quickly. I apologize, just trying to pull something up that will be meaningful and will kind of demonstrate what it is that we are talking about. So let me share my screen again. and see if this makes sense. So this is a 4th grade problem. And what I'm showing on the left-hand side is what the student page would look like. And then on the right-hand side is a ready-made, it's a tool for teachers. It allows them to project the problem and to be able to see different parts. So in 4th grade, this lesson is 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. So the problem is folding chairs are set up in a school auditorium for a play, 16 rows of chairs, each row has 28 chairs. How many total chairs are set up for the play? As we enter students into the problem, we first want to give them the opportunity to read multiple times. So we might use a 3 reads protocol where the teacher might read the first time, or they might read collectively as a class, and they begin asking questions. What is the problem about? What's the important information? What are we being asked to find? And the teacher may hide that last question, how many folding chairs are set up for the play, to allow students to think about what kind of a question might make sense, really allowing students to connect. Now, as students then move into that solve and support your thinking after we've made sense of a problem, what I want to point out is we're not going to tell students how to solve the problem first, because then thinking stops. We want them to be able to take what they know about 1-digit multiplication, which would have been in a prior lesson, what they understand about multiplication in general, which has been developed over multiple grades, and to be able to, once they understand the problem, to solve it in a way that makes sense to them. Now, as students solve those problems, we will get a lot of different solutions within the classroom, which is where the teacher then is able to begin thinking about a method that Taylor used, maybe, where Taylor in the middle over on the left was drawing out a circle for every chair, but that made sense to Taylor. Being able to connect what Juan did, where Juan, just below Taylor, used an area model, where we can overlay that and actually then allow Taylor to understand there might be a faster way, a more efficient way, still in a pictorial way, to represent the problem. As we then move them across, you see Angel then took the 28, and instead of trying to multiply 28 times 16, decompose 16. The idea then is we're honoring student strategies, but still providing anchor strategies or ways that we can connect from a more concrete to a more efficient or a more abstract method of solution, allowing all students to build and make those connections as they go through. So I hope that helps to answer the question.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. There's a couple, yes, she said this is a concrete example. It's very helpful. So thank you.
Okay.
There's a couple other questions I think that are helpful to answer live. How does the teacher address students' different learning levels and continue to stay on pace with more advanced students?
That's a wonderful question. And one of the powers of iReady Classroom, including the iReady Assessment Suite, that diagnostic that I mentioned is given at the beginning of the year, also has what's called a prerequisite report from that same beginning of the year diagnostic. The teacher is then able to see for every cluster of lessons that they're getting ready to teach, they're able to see what are the prerequisite skills and sub-skills, and then it will group students according to the students that have, kind of have, and need some additional help with those prerequisites. Then there are materials and resources that are aligned specifically to that prerequisite knowledge. And there are 3 different ways that that can be used. If the teacher is able to use differentiation time within their class structure, then they can use those either as teacher-led group rotations to work with groups of students that either need support or extension or enrichment. There's an option then for student-led groups for students that could work together and build some of that understanding. And then there are also resources for actually taking some of that prior unfinished learning and building it into the grade level learning continuum where appropriate to shorten the grade level learning and bring in some of that unfinished learning. And then there are also scaffolds built throughout. So as the teachers are looking to support students, one of the powers of iReady Classroom Mathematics is, number one, through that diagnostic assessment and those prerequisite reports, knowing where students are and having specific resources for students at every level and group of understanding. And then number two, at point of use in the teacher's guide, there are different additional suggestions for how to honor students where they are with needs, whether that's students have some unfinished learning that needs to be supported, that we can fill in some of those gaps along the way by providing those scaffolds, or for students that need something to extend or enrich their understanding. So there are a lot of different options for supporting all learners in the class.
Okay, and we have about 8 minutes left, and we have 3 questions currently. 2 are related, so I'm going to read both of them to you, Joe, because it's more about homework and practice. So the first
Look,
one is
that was you telling me to answer more quickly, yes?
no, you're doing great. I would like for my teachers to assign more homework for my student. Will teachers use this to assign homework, or is it only an in-classroom assignment tool? And then the next related question is, do students practice at school, and are they practice, or is this just practice at home? So what is the schoolwork, what is the homework, and what's available there?
Absolutely. Flexibility is one of the powers of this program as well. Teachers have access to a lot of different options for practice. There are apply problems and practice that's built into the lesson itself, and all of the lesson pages have a blue top across. There are additional pages of practice for every single day. Those are the green topped, and they're listed as extra practice that could be used in class or sent for homework. There are additional fluency and skill pages. There are different activities that can be sent home, as well as the digital practice, which are different versions. So the short answer is this: the teacher has enough options to provide plenty of practice in school and still send different practice home for homework if appropriate. So depending on the teacher, the philosophy, the partnership, and what makes the most sense, practice could take place within the classroom setting, as homework at home, and a combination. So there's plenty of practice opportunities and materials and resources to honor whatever that classroom environment or whatever the family or student needs are.
Thank you. And then the only other question we have right now in the chat, but we still probably have time if anybody else has others, is will this resource overwhelm teachers, or will it take the place instead of the actual teaching methods they are using?
That's the beautiful part about this, is that in this model, the teacher voice and experience is absolutely part. We want to honor students and student thinking, student processing, student conversations, but the teacher really is in charge of that classroom and deciding what that learning trajectory looks like for the day. From the overwhelming teacher perspective, I will tell you this: we went through a lot just so that you understand that there are a multitude of resources available. But at the end of the day, the teacher is able to pick up their teacher's guide and walk through the lessons with the support that they need for questions that they might want to ask or listen for, guiding, supporting, not replacing the teacher, not replacing their knowledge or expertise, but just giving them that additional support so that when they need it or would like it, they're able to see it right there at point of use. This is a program that is designed to be very teacher friendly, to honor teachers, their knowledge and experience. It's not designed to replace what they know works in class, but it gives them a vehicle to make sure that that sticks and that students are able to connect to that understanding.
Hey, if you have any other questions, we have 3 more minutes available. We want to make sure we're giving equal time to both publishers. Okay, here's a question. Can parents see unfinished work of student and help them at home?
And again, that is going to depend on the teacher. I mean, the teacher is the guide in the classroom, but the idea behind the student write-in text is that students are able to actually show and journal their work. Those pages are perforated, they can go home. So if that is appropriate, and that's, again, part of that classroom environment, then those pages could certainly go home with the student to be worked on at home. And at home, there are a lot of additional supports there. Information for strategies, why we're using strategies. I mentioned the video library, where they could actually see what that lesson looks like with a different teacher kind of walking through and kind of guiding that process with pauses to stop, to think, to make sense. So it certainly is a possibility, but again, that's going to depend on the individual teacher and what their classroom policy and strategy looks and feels like.
Hey, any last questions? Okay, one just came in. That's adding a lot of responsibility to the teacher role. What type of assistance will they get?
One of the things that we do very well is professional development, guidance and support. And when we look at a partnership with a district such as yours, it's about connecting you with people, not 800 numbers. And so the training and the conversation and what the resources are, when and how to best use those, the best way to reach all students in the classroom, that is a conversation between our professional development team and district leadership to make sure that we're providing what teachers need. It's not one and done, it's ongoing training. So as their teaching evolves and grows, so does the training that we provide and the support that we provide. So a couple of things. The videos that we've mentioned to support families, information that's there, there's just as much to support teachers with background information or what to focus on, best tips or strategies. So while it sounds overwhelming right now, in reality, the support that's there allows teachers to do their job and enjoy teaching, while at the same time making sure that students are connecting to the mathematics.
Thank you. And we do take supporting our teachers very seriously with professional learning. Our buildings also have what we call instructional coaches to also help our teachers all along the way with implementation. So we know that implementation is a year-long plus process. So we do take that very seriously. And final question, I think I can answer, and then it'll be time for us to move on. When will this tool be in effect? These materials are to be in classrooms at the start of next year. So they will be in classrooms, whatever we decide in September of next year. However, you can right now, if you want to look into this, Curriculum Associates has provided a demonstration account for you to get into and start looking. And Rochelle will go over that again at the end of the presentation on how you can access those accounts. So I want to thank Robin and Joe for being here. We really appreciate your time and all the information you were able to give us. And with that, we're going to turn it over to, we're going to take a quick transition here and introduce our next publisher. So the second publisher we're looking at is McGraw-Hill, and the program is called Reveal Math. And I would like to welcome Teresa Miller, who's our sales representative. And Teresa, I'm going to let you introduce our presenter tonight.
Hey, sounds great. I think she's just joining. Rochelle, has she been able to join?
That is a great question. We'll have Nate look into that. This is for Jennifer, is that correct?
Jessica?
Jessica, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, Jessica Hunkel.
Yep, we'll check the list and Nate's helping me with that right now.
Okay, thank you. While you're working on that, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity for us to share with the community about Reveal Math. We are very excited to have David Douglas looking at that. We feel like it would be a very good fit. And we're looking forward to giving you the overview and answering any questions.
Okay, looks like Jessica has the ability to join. I'll go ahead and ask her to unmute.
Okay.
All right. Well, welcome. Hello, everyone.
Jessica, go ahead and get
All right.
started.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Excellent. Is that coming through okay for everyone?
You are live and good to go.
Perfect. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jessica Hunkley. I'm very excited to be here with you all. And so just before I go live onto the student portal, I would like to just briefly show this link here. It is going to be like a recorded overview of some of the components that we're going to be taking a look at a little bit more in depth together. So in case anybody would like to view that video, it is here ready to go. All right. I'm going to go ahead and take us on to that Reveal Math platform here. And this is what the students are going to see when they log in. And it's also what parents and community members are also going to be seeing as they are looking to help students navigate the math content and math concepts with Reveal Math. And so this first homepage here has a few exciting areas that I'd like to discuss first. First off, right here in our main section, we have our to-do items. These are going to be any components or assignments that the teacher has specifically given out to the students, either individualized or differentiated support for that student who's logged in, or as a whole class. And so this is where you might see up here, we've got our STEM Career Kid video, we've got some assessments, we've got a great family letter here, and we'll take a look at these here in just a moment. But as I continue to scroll down, you'll also see some really great components, including our e-toolkit, where students can access manipulatives, the glossary, which also has multiple languages. We see our digital station center for games and interactive practice, as well as student editions in both English and Spanish. At the top of this home dashboard page on the left-hand side, you'll see 3 sections. Right now we are at the home section. We're also going to see a section for lesson material, as well as past work that students can always go back and view and track their progress. So to get us a little bit more comfortable here with what we're seeing on the home page, one of the things I'd like to pull up first is our family letter. And that family letter, I'm going to click here on Let's Go, is introducing the unit to families. And teachers will either provide some additional information or just some key ideas to think about here in the instruction section. Or if it's an assignment for students, they may include information that they want their students to remember. But as I open up that family letter, I'm going to see some really great graphics, so it's student friendly as well, and introducing that STEM Career Kit for the unit. And if you remember on that homepage, there's also a little video that introduces as well. And then we're going to see some information about vocabulary and what our students can be doing at home to help solidify those concepts we're going to be working on. It is a 2-page document, so you'll see some additional information about what students are going to be learning in the unit and give some really great examples to help families at home as they are working with their children. Looking back here at our homepage. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Jessica. Our pacing is a little fast for our interpretation room. I'm getting some feedback. So you've got lots of wonderful things to cover, but if I could ask just for a little bit of a slower pace so that they can interpret all the wonderful things you're sharing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Sometimes I do forget that I go a little bit quick, so I appreciate that.
Of course.
So as we saw in that family letter, that we have our STEM Career Kids, we'll see a video link that's up here at the top, and I'll just show a little tiny bit of this Career Kid video.
Do you like to bake? I know I do. I'm measuring flour for a batch of muffins right now. I'm Saffron. I bake all sorts of things with my grandma. These were in the oven at just the right temperature for just the right time. I'll use this recipe at my old bakery when I'm a pastry chef.
One of the things I like to highlight here too about our videos is that we're going to be able to turn on closed captioning, and we can of course also assign this out to students so that they access exactly what we want them to when we want them to. Some of the other resources that you'll see in this assigned section do include a guided exploration where students will get some information and a kind of a step-by-step where they're able to pause and reflect before seeing responses. We'll also see some printables for families at home as well. For example, these vocabulary cards. And so if I clicked on the vocabulary cards, I can open those up into a PDF file, and families can make these at home. And again, this is going to help with all of the great vocabulary that students are going to be encountering here within Reveal Math. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our homepage. And then you'll also see some personalized and adaptive practice as well. And so if I were to, as the teacher, assign this out, I can pick specific concepts that I want students, either individually, in groups, or my whole class, to go through and review. And depending on how students answer those questions, it will either provide more questions or some additional information and or instruction. And so this is a really great component as well that our students can do to get a little bit more unique practice points within Reveal Math. Now, as I had mentioned down here along the bottom, there are some other features that are also helpful for students as they are practicing and engaging with math at home. And so the first one I'm going to hop here into is the e-toolkit. And the e-toolkit allows the opportunity for students to engage with manipulative experiences at home or just digitally even within the classroom. And so if I open up this full screen here, over here on the left-hand side, I can draw, but I can also add a variety of e-tools. Now for this sample here today, I'm in 3rd grade, but you can also adjust to other grade levels depending on the needs of the student. And so I could pick something like base 10 blocks. Show this one first. And I will pull up my base 10 blocks. Now I can then pull and interact with these on the screen. I can break them apart. I can break them apart even further. And if I select all of them, I can put them back together. Oh, I accidentally selected the additional 10 there. Do that one, put them back together. And so it's very easy for students to work with and manipulate these items here in the digital space. Now, if I wanted to, I can always add a different e-tool. And notice we do have 5 options for tools if I did want multiple tools on the board at the same time. And so I can come through and you can see all sorts of variety here in terms of what students have access to digitally. Okay. I'm going to X out of this one here. The other resource that we're seeing down here is the glossary. And so when I click here into the glossary, I can either search for words in English, I can search for words in Spanish, and I can either click into a specific letter to see the vocabulary words that would start with that letter. I can also do a search. So maybe I wanted to look up a word and I can see that information here. Okay, so a great glossary that's interactive and colorful too. Then we also have our digital station center for game activities. And so students can hop in here at any time. And again, different grade levels are represented. I'll hop here into 3rd grade. And so we'll see a variety of games, very colorful and engaging for our students. And so if I did want to open up one, we'll have this load up real quick. I know all of my family is home right now, and so my internet may be a little bit, yeah, let's hop back. But we can see that there's all sorts of different choices for students to select in terms of gameplay, both for remediation as well as extension. See if that's, here we go. Okay, so our special delivery, which house
should get the package? Drive the truck to the right address.
Okay, and so if I were to click on one, oh, that one's not correct. And so then I get, perfect. So our students can get some exciting interactive practice that does give them that immediate feedback. And then again, we do have our 2 student volumes here on our home dashboard page. And these are interactive student editions, volume 1 and volume 2. And then again, that Spanish version is here too. Scrolling back up to the top, we do have a lessons section as well. So again, these are all the things on this to-do section that have been assigned by the teacher. But I can also click here into lessons. And I can do my little course navigation menu here to select either unit or lesson information. So maybe we're just getting ready to start unit 2. And as a parent or another community member, I want to come in and see the resources that are available. And so we see our family letters, vocabulary cards, those were also assigned. But as I continue down, I will see resources for foldables, diagnostic assessments. I will see STEM in action videos and a lot of Spanish resources as well. Now, these are just for the unit. So if I know that my child is in lesson 2 or unit 2, lesson 1, I can click into that specific lesson. And in there, I will find a variety of resources for just the general introduction, but also for practice and reflection. I'll see my little exit ticket and my differentiation resources. So for students that need additional support, we have our take another look, reinforce understanding kind of components for ongoing practice. We have our game station with task cards. So those are things that could be printed and used at home. Spiral review, there's that additional practice. And then we also have differentiation by means of extension. And so you'll have the STEM adventure, extend your thinking, there's an application. And so these are all great ways too for students that are looking for a little bit more support, a little more practice, or a little more in terms of extension. Now, these are the Spanish edition and resources for this lesson. And so if these are resources that I was hoping to have access to at home, I have those here. And if my student is looking to complete an assignment, so for example, here, this exit ticket, or there's additional practice, that's also an assessment, I can click into these. Or again, I can access those from my homepage. So for example, this assessment, I'm going to click here into this one and we'll see how this looks on the student side. And so in this particular case, this student had started in the classroom and just didn't have a chance to finish it. And so we're going to finish up this one right here. I'm not going to even take a look at the question, but we'll go ahead and say done and review. Our student looks and says, all right, looking good. I'm going to go ahead and submit the assignment. And then depending on the option selected by the teacher, I can view my score details. And so as that student, I can go through and see, all right, I'm doing pretty good. Got all of these green marks. Perfect. Okay. Now, this is not just the only time that I can see this. I can always go back at any point in time into our next section here on the home dashboard page. Let's set those back. So I can always go back and see my past work. And so when I click here into my past work, I see that I've got my exit ticket that represent 4-digit numbers. And then I also have my readiness. Now I can click here into this one and I can still go back in the future here and take a look and see exactly which ones I missed. Okay, so I can still see that same score sheet access. I'm going to close that up. Now, this is all information and resources that we're seeing from the student side. And I know that we are running a tight schedule, so I was going to open it up for questions. Yes, go ahead.
Jessica, it's Teresa. Could you, while you're here, can you show them the really great math replay videos? I think the parents will really
Oh,
appreciate
yeah.
having those available.
Absolutely. So if I am looking here in my lesson, and you're absolutely right, Teresa. So those math replay videos are going to appear for each lesson, and they are anywhere from like 60 to 90 seconds long. And they just replay the information that was presented in that lesson. And it's a really nice way for families at home to catch up and see exactly what their child was doing in class that day. So I would click on this replay video, and we'll watch just a little bit here.
Represent 4-digit numbers. Today, we will learn how to represent 4-digit numbers. What are some ways to represent 4-digit numbers? There are 4 digits in the number. We can use the standard form to represent the number. This form uses digits to represent the number. We can use base 10 blocks and place value charts. Let's use the base 10 blocks to represent the place value of each digit in the 4-digit number. 2 thousands, 100, 3 tens, 8 ones. Let's use a place value chart to represent the number. It is 2 thousands, 100, 3 tens, and 8 ones. Another way to represent the number is using expanded form, which is a sum of the...
Oh, right. So it's really nice to see all of the different pieces of information that were shared in the way that they were shared. Go ahead and in that quick little recap video for families and for students at home, that might be something that would refresh a student's memory so that they are able to continue with either homework practice or other learning experiences or discussions that are happening at home regarding math. Great reminder, Teresa. Thank you so much.
Okay, and Jessica, we have opened up for questions. Are you ready, or did you want to show any?
Yes, we can go ahead and open up for questions.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure you had a chance, excuse me, to share. The first question is maybe more for our David Douglas team. And the question was, how do the materials for home line up with average language literacy level of our community members? Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So what kind of parent supports we have? We speak many languages in David Douglas, and what kind of supports are available for families at home who are accessing these materials?
So I think the biggest one is going to be, and actually I'm going to go ahead and X out of the student side here. And those family letters are really great. And there are several different, let me pull up, looking here in our course resources. Our unit resources. So we do have video supports, we have the print resources, we do have family letters, that are available to share with families with graphics and other visual representations as well. So there's typically going to be several different representations for getting the information out, as well as other tips and strategies for families. Like I said, we've got print, visuals, as well as videos to support.
And then Brooke, this is Teresa. I typed an answer in the chat, but I wanted to also address, there was a question about diversity, and the example that we showed did show someone with a light complexion, but as students and teachers look through the STEM careers, our students have a lot of diversity. We even show some students that have some special needs, so that we have show that all students can have career paths that are STEM and math and science related.
So I'll just do a quick scroll here. These are some of the STEM career kids that we will see. And these are, again, just quick little picture graphics, but as you look in the videos, like Teresa mentioned, students that do have learning differences or the career kids that are differently abled will be represented.
Okay, and
Great. Any other questions? Okay, practice activities without paper. So the without paper part, if you are, if students do have access to computer devices, tablets even, or anything like that, they can access a ton of practice opportunities that are both adaptive and personalized or differentiated, strictly tech-based. However, there are also printable options for families that would prefer that type of practice.
One thing that I think we could add also, Jessica and Teresa, is maybe the student workbooks are part of your program. So oftentimes I've seen lessons from Reveal that have a student workbook page. I don't know if you want to mention anything to that effect so that the printing might not be on the weight of families.
Excuse me. Yes. So if I open up the interactive student edition, so that we can kind of see what that lesson might look like. So if I come in here into, let's keep it in line with that 4-digit number lesson. Okay, and so we can access further pages up here on the top left. And so the pages, can all be visually here, but then also students can work and show all of their work here within the digital space as well. And then not just even drawing or writing it out, but they can also, do their typing. 1,000. Just doing a quick there. There we go. And then it does give that automatic feedback immediate so that students know if they are grasping the concept or not. And that also is helpful for families at home too. So you don't have to print, you could access digitally here through the platform, that workbook.
Thank you. We have
Yeah,
a
you're very
couple
welcome.
of chat questions. Teresa, did you want to speak to the one that you just answered? Oh, check your mic, Teresa, sorry. Teresa, check your mic, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I was trying not to make background noise. So thank you. Yes, these resources can be used on any device, including an iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know there was another question about how do we ensure students are learning and not just answering questions to get it correct. And I think Jessica might be able to answer that better than I can, but there are many resources in place for that. So Jessica, would you like to speak to that?
And so if we're talking about the workbook here, notice that students had to put in that answer, otherwise it would mark it incorrect. But again, this is just one example. When we're looking at some of the adaptive and personalized work, if students miss 2 questions in a row, for example, it pulls them out and has them do like a little instructional piece first. And so it really is geared towards making sure that students are understanding it and not just guessing, where they're, guessing 3 or 4 times before it shows them that they're getting it right and then moving on. So it does have a lot of opportunities to kind of catch students that are just, kind of guessing through it. But again, you will see a variety of practices. So if students are playing games, as you saw with the special delivery, it kicks it back and it, has students try it again. So you do have, that level, but then again, all the way up to that adaptive learning, where if they miss it twice in a row, it pulls them out for further instruction.
Okay, any other questions? do have a little more time if anything comes up. We'll wait another moment or so.
That sounds good.
Okay, and hopefully we're giving you proper wait time. Oh, I think one just came in. Hold on. Okay, and Ivy, can you help with this one?
Yes, the question is, how can I get the application? Or how can I obtain the application?
So the Reveal Math platform is web browser based. And so it isn't necessarily an app that would need to be downloaded. And this is what allows it to be utilized on all different devices.
Maybe we could add on to that, that here in David Douglas, we use Clever, which is an online access point where students would be able to join or click on Reveal Math, and that's where they would see the student page that Jessica showed us at the beginning of her presentation. So again, not an app per se, but actually a website through the David Douglas student dashboard.
And that makes it really easy for students to be able to gain access. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Jessica, since we have an extra minute, do you want to speak about the amount of differentiation available to teachers? Or Brooke, do you feel like that's not the right, that's something that parents would want to hear about?
Oh, no, I mean, I want to make sure you have all your time. We have until 7:17. We did get one more question that just came in. Can you clarify that there is no paper workbook? It's all online, or does it need to be printed?
Would you
So
like
there-
to address that?
Go ahead, Teresa. Go ahead.
So it's available both digitally and in print. So the students will have complete digital access to all of the things that you just saw here. And there is also a workbook that students would be able to write in and interact with. They come in 2 volumes, so they're not quite as big and chunky as if it was all in one. And those come each year of the adoption. That's not an additional cost. And then would TAG students be using this as well? I think that question I was trying to have Jessica speak to about there are resources for extending for our more gifted students.
Yes, absolutely. And so teachers can hop into any lesson. Again, I'm going to hop here into that 2-1, keep it consistent. But as we look at the different sections that are available for every lesson, differentiate is here. And so it does have a reinforce understanding, building proficiency, but then you also have those extend thinking options. And so that can look like anything from this application station is great. And so there's a little, background story, an elementary school is raising money to buy new playground equipment. Here's all the playground equipment prices. And then also we have it available in Spanish here. And so students would be able to go through and answer these very real life, type experience questions while applying the math skills. So it goes into that deeper level and extends students' thinking there. You'll also have, this is an external tool, the STEM Adventure. And then there's also other PDFs that we can share to also have students differentiate a little bit there. And so teachers will have that access in each lesson. And so if I were to click into another one here, we would still see that differentiate option, reinforce understanding, building proficiency, and then moving into that extend thinking. Okay, and we see that we've got a different option here, history of the railroad and some other options.
Great. We have 2 more questions in the chat, and that might be all that we have time for. And so Ivy, can you help us with the?
Yes.
Thank you.
Tatiana, can you toggle to the English room to interpret the question in the Q&A box for us? And if you can confirm that the question is, the students will use this program after school or during classes. If you can explain that a little better. Is that correct?
Would students be using it during class or after school?
If is that correct? What I said, just to clarify the question, or yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think the way that it would be intended is that students have reveal math instruction during the day in their classes. And then depending on the student, the family, the teacher's expectations, what level that gets extended into after school hours is, that decision. And so again, it could be something that's more relaxed, like, choosing some games to play. It could be the adaptive learning where students are able to practice on remediation skills or specific skills that they need help with this unit. And it could be, paper pencil type activities. It could be a lot of different options outside of school hours if that was something that was desired.
Okay, and then we'll answer just this one last question, and it was really for the David Douglas staff. I understand you will need to make a decision which of the two platforms to adopt, and asking what we see as the difference between the two different programs. And what I would encourage you to do, and we can go back and share some of the adoption team members. Maybe there is one from a teacher from the school that your student attends, and to ask them, because Rochelle's going to talk about it, but our teachers are actually going to start using the curriculum and piloting lessons. So we're going to have a lot more to share after that experience. And I encourage you to talk to teachers on the team and get more information. But you can also call us and we can talk about what we see from the district level too. And with that, we are at time for McGraw-Hill. And thank you, Teresa and Jessica, for joining us this evening and sharing Reveal Math. We definitely appreciate you being here. And I will say to our participants tonight on the call, this isn't the only opportunity. If you have a question that comes up later, we'll give you contact information at the end, and we will make sure you get your questions answered.
Real quickly, sorry, Rochelle, I saw that there is a request to have access to the student logins. I'll get those sent to you right away so that you can add those to that document. We just didn't want parents to see just one login and have all of the assignments already gone. So
that makes sense.
They've seen the overview, we'll definitely get you those logins per grade level.
That'd be delightful. I'm going to go over our website. So I'll probably take the screen sharing rights back, Jessica, when you have a moment to stop sharing. And thank you so much for coming, Jessica and Teresa.
Great, thank you.
Yep,
thank you. Have a great one.
Oh, thank you. Community members, I have a few last announcements and then some space for you to ask us some questions as you already have been doing. So thank you. Let me bring this back up. And beautiful. Just as a reminder, on the district website, you'll find in the scroller where there's an image displayed on the front page, you'll find our community input webpage. By clicking on that link, it will take you to learn more about Reveal and iReady. And it also, most importantly, will give you access to our feedback survey, which should take no more than 3 to 5 minutes. What I loved about tonight's session is that some of you asked some wonderful questions in regards to what are some priorities, what are some things that we are really looking for in curriculum, and you'll have an opportunity to voice which of those priorities you think should really be at the top of our list while we're looking at curriculum in the classroom and with students and with teachers. So I really encourage you to leave your feedback on the website. I do want to touch on what comes next, because ultimately everything that gets decided upon here will impact our students next year. So during February and March, currently, we are asking our educators that you saw at the beginning of today's presentation to pilot. That means they're trying out materials and lessons with students that are in their classrooms. We're also gathering your input via the survey on the website. I would ask that if you have friends and community members that you live by, that you live near, encourage them to give their input as well. And lastly, our teachers are reviewing all the data that gets pulled from their pilot experience, both student voice and community voice, to help us, because in April, we will be making our recommendation to the school board. We asked the school board for approval. If you are interested in attending that event, there is a Zoom link that gets sent out for all of our school board meetings. So I encourage you to tune back in. And then finally, in September of this upcoming school year, all of our K-5 educators will be supported with professional learning and provided the curriculum materials to begin implementing those math lessons with our students next year. So we're really looking forward to what is to come. So without further ado, I'm going to open this floor for some questions. You all have been wonderful with using the Q&A button. Please continue to do that. Oh, I would love to. Yes, I can post a link directly to the survey, which could make things a little easier for everybody.
Oh, yes. Are you going to put that in the chat?
I will.
Okay, great. Okay, are there any other questions? And this would be for our David Douglas team, not for our publishers, but any questions about our process or next steps or anything? Okay, here's a question about, is there homework in elementary? My understanding is there's no homework in elementary. Is that correct? The district has not made a blanket statement that there's no homework in elementary, but there is research that coming out, like, how effective is homework? What we know about homework is homework should be practice. It should not be any new learning. And one of the things that we really want to maximize our time in school and that time in class, but also want to make sure that students' evenings are not filled with homework and they get their time playing and family time and doing other things. So homework definitely has a place. So you will see different schools, different teachers doing varying degrees of homework. But there isn't a one size fits all in David Douglas about what that looks like. Great question.
We still have about 6 more minutes remaining. If you have an additional question, feel free to add that to the Q&A box.
And I should mention, even if a teacher doesn't give homework, if you would like more practice for your student, teachers are always willing to work with you and make sure that they're giving your student and you what you would like to see. So both curricula offer lots of different practice opportunities. So if that is something you would like to see, simply talk with your teacher.
Lisa, that's a great question. I'd like to answer part of it and maybe have some help from Brooke for the other half of that question. The results will be compiled using a Google form, so it will kind of allocate the results based on all the responses. And then we will take that data to our educators on April 7th. All of our elementary educators are coming together, and we'll use your voice to help guide our decision, or I would say maybe impact our decision in relation to iReady versus Reveal. And then in terms of sharing that out with the community, I can say that we'll be sharing what the recommendation will be between the two. And I would be delighted to share some of the support materials that helped us make that decision. I think that transparency would be delightful.
Yeah, so how we make the decision is we're looking at lots of different factors and data points. So we'll be looking at your feedback and what's important to our community. We're also going to be looking at student voice. As Rochelle and Carrie mentioned earlier, there's going to be student surveys, and students, if their teacher is piloting the curriculum, we're going to get feedback from those students. And then, of course, we want to hear from our teachers who have used the materials as well. What was their experience? So we take all of those pieces to make a decision, but we will definitely, as Rochelle mentioned, be very transparent and make sure that we post how we came and arrived at the decision we did. And we will share that with the school board when we make our recommendation as well.
We have a homework question. Brooke, do you want to continue on that?
Yeah, so the question, there's another homework question. Is the homework decision per teacher or per school? And I'm going to say it's both. Some of our schools have said, leadership teams have said, hey, let's have a no homework policy, and other schools it's by teacher. So it is a mix of both.
Carol, you've asked what is the current system that we are using for our math curriculum, and that's okay. We've been using Imagine Learning Classroom, which is formally known as LearnZillion. So you might have seen some things that your student has brought home from LearnZillion, and then teachers do supplement and add additional materials to really enrich the learning off of the Imagine Learning Classroom materials. Carrie or Brooke, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, that is our current adoption. And when we adopt new materials, those materials will be sunsetted. We won't use those anymore, and we will use the new materials.
Wonderful.
And there's also a question about, has there been research on materials provided to the district that these two programs support mastering concepts that are in state testing? And I would say yes. We look at the materials and how they are aligned with what are our state standards. And our state standards are the Common Core state standards in math. And that is what students are expected to know and be able to do by grade level. So when we're looking at materials, they've already been vetted to see how closely they are aligned to those state standards. And then the state test, is testing students' proficiency on those standards. So that is a big part of our decision for sure.
And I would add on to that, there was a list of curriculum publishers that the state gave to all districts across the entire state. And we selected ones from that list that met all expectations or exceeded. We did not select any publishers to consider that did not meet the Oregon State criteria or baseline requirements. And that includes standards that align with the state test. All right, we are 1 minute shy of 7:30, and we want to honor your time as a family. If you have questions and you're still hoping to answer one or two, please feel free to continue to use the Q&A box. Thank you so much for attending. And I really do hope that you have a chance to complete the Google form on our district website. Let me see, I'm gonna go ahead and put my email as a response to that last thank you. And if you would need to email me, I would love to connect you with resources or answer further questions. Check the Q&A box and you can see for my email address.
And if you have a middle school student or a high school student, we have 2 more community nights coming. And what are the dates? Those are next week, Rochelle, is that correct?
Yeah, middle school will happen in the exact same format on Tuesday the 7th, and high school, exact same format at the end of the month on February 28th. Thank you, Carol. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you to all of our interpreters. You can now leave the room. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you. Thank you. I want to echo